How's it going, everyone? I am back with another video. This is going to be my divisional round score predictions video. I'm going to go through the four divisional round games taking place Saturday and Sunday, break down my score predictions, talk about how I think the games are going to go, and all that good stuff. So I will dive straight in here. So the first game is Buffalo Denver. The Broncos are favored by 1.5. The line originally started out with the Bills being favored uh, by 1.5. And it was very similar to the Jacksonville game. In that game, Buffalo opened as 1.5 point favorites, and then it swung in Jacksonville's favor the opposite way. Same exact thing here. So went from Buffalo to 1.5 point favorites to now Denver 1.5 point favorites. I'm going to go with Buffalo here. I'm going to say 23-20. This is a tough game to pick, but the Broncos, I just think this is a bad draw for them as the 1 seed. I talked about it in which video was it? Maybe a couple videos, but I'm pretty sure it's the one where it was my week 18 playoff scenarios. I was mapping out all the different possibilities. And obviously, I wanted the 1 seed as a Patriots fan, but I said there is a very real possibility that you could play Buffalo in round two, your first playoff game, which is not going to be an ideal draw. That's exactly how the card ended up playing out. So tough draw for Denver here. For me, I just trust Josh Allen in the Bills offense more than Bo Nix in the Broncos offense. The Broncos offense has been middle of the pack most of the year, a lot of ugly wins where the defense greatly helped them win the game. Really not too many from start to finish consistent games for Denver's offense throughout the season. Buffalo's defense, they actually, again, I was surprised to hear this statistic. They have the top pass defense, and you can say that's because a bunch of teams are running it on them because their run defense is toward the bottom of the league, not too good in that metric. But I think Denver, their offense, I don't know. My gut's just telling me Buffalo's defense, even though it hasn't looked great throughout a good portion of the season, I think they play a solid game here. I'm not too impressed with Denver's offense this season for the most part. I'm not a big Bo Nix guy, but I don't think he's as bad as a lot of people think he is. I don't think he's an elite, top five quarterback, but I don't think Bo Nix is, just completely carried, like game manager. I don't think he's quite at that level. But yeah, I just the way the Broncos have been winning with their offense not doing too much, skating by, just escaping, the bottom feeders, the Jets, the Titans, the Giants, the Chiefs practice squad, the Chargers backups, games like that. I think that it's going to run out for them. The Bills are a team on a mission. This really should be their year with no Mahomes, I said no Allen, no Mahomes, no Lamar, no Burrow. This should be their year. Josh Allen, easily the most experienced postseason quarterback in the AFC at least. So one thing that is concerning for this game from the Bills' standpoint is their receiving core is extremely injured. Gabe Davis towards ACL and Shavers also towards ACL. So two torn ACLs for their receivers in one game is absolutely insane. So their receiving core is thin. They're going to have to play Keon Coleman, who's been a healthy scratch multiple times this season. I think he could have a big impact on this team for however many games the Bills play this postseason. I don't think it's going to be easy. Like the Bills will be marching up and down the field. I just trust them to grind it out more than Denver's offense. I think Josh Allen's going to get the job done. I honestly feel fairly confident with this pick. I do think this game's going to be close. I don't think either team's going to win by more than one score. Denver, their key to winning, I think, is going to be getting pressure on Josh Allen. He has a bunch of different injuries. The receiving core is banged up, so they can get pressure, just not let the receivers create separation. That'll be a key for Denver. Maybe RJ Harvey in the run game get going. Sean Payton, good game planner, obviously. Extra week to prepare, bye week. So Sean Payton schemes some things up. I could see Denver just methodically moving the ball. I just don't trust them to outscore Josh Allen in this game. So I'm going to go with Buffalo, but it very well could go either way. Tight game here. I I would bet the spread because I'm picking for Buffalo is +1.5. So I'm picking them to win. So obviously they'll cover as underdogs. But if Denver wins, they probably will cover that. They just have to win by 2+ points. So they'll probably cover if they win, they'll probably cover. Tight game could go either way. I'm just going to trust Josh Allen and the Bills a bit more in this one. If this was in Buffalo, I'd feel extremely confident. Rematch of the last year's wild card game. That was tight early on, and the Bills pulled away late. Obviously, Denver much better this year than last year. Bills, you can say, took a bit of a step down this year compared to last year, but yeah, I'm just feeling okay with with Buffalo here. So I'm going to go with them 23-20, tight game. Should be a fun one to watch. 49ers Seahawks. First of all, the line being 7, I think is crazy. I feel very confident in 49ers to cover the 7-point spread. I don't think they're going to win. I have Seattle winning 23-20. By the way, my score predictions, I went 6 for 6 with my wild card picks. My score predictions, I probably would change. I should change some of them from my original bracket prediction, but because my bracket is perfect so far, I'm going to stick with my score predictions I had. Let's see how far I can go. My scores were off from the wild card games, but my winners were all correct. I went 6 for 6, so my bracket's perfect. I'm just going to stick with my score predictions. But anyway, I think the 49ers are going to cover that 7-point spread. Both games with the 49ers and Seahawks were extremely tight. Week 1, the 49ers beat them in Seattle, so obviously that they would cover the +7 if they just simply win the game. And yes, Seattle kind of dominated them week 18, it felt like, but they only won by 10. So very close in both those games. The 49ers, on paper, on paper, I think the spread is reasonable because on paper, they're just so injured. Now they're going to go into Seattle after another physical game against the Eagles. They're going to win in Seattle against a team that just dominated them at home in San Francisco in week 18, just 2 weeks ago. So I understand the 7-point spread, but I think San Francisco will cover that. I predict them to score 20. I'm a bit nervous with that because their offense kind of struggled for a good portion of that Philly game outside of their first drive. They got something going in the fourth quarter, obviously, but they had to bust out the trick play to score. It was a good last drive, the touchdown drive, but no Kittle. Obviously, they know that in advance, so they can prepare. But Seattle shut them down with Kittle 2 weeks ago. So without Kittle, at home, bye week, well-rested Seattle team, that could be a nightmare. I don't think they're only going to score 3 points like they did week 18. They had some bad things go against them, like the McCaffrey pick at the goal line. I'm pretty sure they're getting Pearsall back and Trent Williams, though. Trent Williams is back last week, but let me double check. 49ers. Let's see. Ricky Pearsall's question. Okay, I think I saw a report that actually. Let me just look it up directly. Let's see here. Oh, for Christ's sake, why can't it just pop up yes or no? Okay, there we go. Yes, he's supposed to play. Okay, so they didn't appear all 2 weeks ago. Obviously, getting him back is going to be a bit of a boost, especially losing Kittle. But even the first game between these teams week 1, the 49ers and Kittle went out in that game too. That was a really difficult game for San Francisco to get points. They missed some kicks that game. Otherwise, they would have had some more points. They cut Moody after it. But this could be a very hard-fought game for San Francisco to get points. Again, I don't think they'll only score 3, but I don't think they're going to be moving the ball up and down the field on the Seattle defense. I think it's going to be a very hard-fought 20 points. I think this game's going to be tighter than people expect. Sam Darnold was on the injury report, I think with an oblique injury. I think that even before that, I thought that Seattle's offense wouldn't play too great in this game when I was basing it off my original bracket prediction. I didn't think Seattle's offense would play great. I thought it would be a game, everyone's expecting them to win, but it's tighter and it's kind of nerve-wracking. But they end up pulling away in the end. I thought it might be a game like that. So, again, no one's giving the 49ers, I shouldn't say no one. Most people aren't giving the 49ers too much of a chance here. Again, the two games they played were tight. They're getting Pearsall back. My gut's telling me, again, they didn't have things go their way week 18. I think they obviously look at that film. I think they prepare a bit better, execute better. I think they're going to get a bit more offense than people were expecting. Seattle's offense, I don't think will play great. Probably have some ugly stretches during the game, kind of like their offense the back half of the year and throughout the season. But I think they'll end up getting enough offensively. I think Seattle's defense makes a few extra stops compared to the 49ers defense. Injuries, I think, are just a bit too much for the 49ers to overcome here. So I'm going to go with Seattle, but I'm not overly confident. Again, on paper, Seattle really should win this game comfortably. But the 49ers, Chris Broussard, on First Things First, actually made a really good analogy. Like the Bears, they believe they can win the game regardless of how many points they're down. The 49ers believe they can just win the game, whoever's in playing for them, because of how many injuries. So that's a good analogy. San Francisco, for them to pull off the upset, again, I think they're going to get a bit more offense than people are expecting. Defense, if they can play like they did week 18 and just, even though they got the ball moved on them that game, they can just limit Seattle to field goals instead of touchdowns. That will be big. I could see them maybe forcing Darnold into a bad game. Maybe his injury shows up, but I'm going to go with Seattle. Again, I would take San Francisco +7. Think this will be tight regardless of which team wins, but I'm going to go with Seattle 23-20 in this one. Texans, Patriots. So, Patriots were favored by 3 points. That line has stayed consistent throughout the week. I think on FanDuel, we opened as 2.5-point favorites. I get my spreads from DraftKings. But on FanDuel, I believe we were 2.5-point favorites, and it shifted up to 3. I don't know if that's in light because they officially announced today that Nico Collins is out. And for us, Gonzalez is good to go. So obviously that's beneficial for us with the injury news. You hate to see, teams not have their players, especially key players. So that, that's, I wish Nico Collins, was healthy to play, but, beneficial for my team, obviously. But I'm going to go with my team, 23-17 here. And now winning by 6, I'm a bit uneasy. This is one of them when I mentioned earlier where I wish I could revise some of my score predictions, but with my bracket staying perfect, might as well keep my score predictions. I think if we can get to 21 points, we should be able to win the game if Houston's defense doesn't score themselves, or if the offense for Houston isn't set up in like immediate scoring range or close scoring range from something like a turnover, a punt return, a return from a turnover, things like that. I really like the way our defense matches up with Houston's offense with Nico Collins. Without him, I like it even more. They've been getting the run game going a bit with Woody Marks. Nick Chubb's actually looked decent too. With Milton Williams and Spillane in the lineup, we haven't surrendered a 50-yard rusher with both of them in the lineup. So feel good about that matchup. And then passing-wise, we like to play a bunch of man. Well, with no Nico Collins, Higgins is solid, Noel is solid, but they're rookies. I think we match up very well with them in the pass game, the run game. Their offensive line hasn't been great. Trent Brown's actually questionable to play, another former Patriot. Jake Andrews, their center. A lot of people, Texans, not too big of fans of him. I think we could get pressure on C.J. Stroud. I don't think C.J. Stroud will be as sloppy with the ball as he was against the Steelers, but I think we could get pressure on Stroud. I like how we match up with them in the run and pass game. I just don't believe that the Texans can methodically or consistently drive the ball down the field on our defense multiple drives this game. So that's why, even though I think Houston's defense they very well could win the game alone, Houston's defense. They basically did last week for them. Houston's defense could win them the game alone. I just trust Drake May and our offense more than C.J. Stroud and the Texans' offense, especially with us being the home team. I do not think it's going to be easy, but I do think in a way that after the fact that we won, maybe it's a blessing in disguise that we had a bunch of pressure and protection issues with May last week up front, because obviously that's going to be intensified with the Texans pass rush, at least on paper, compared to the Chargers. So I think Vrabel is going to emphasize ball security, pass protection this week. And like I said, I think Vrabel is going to be telling the team that we should be confident with how we match up with them defensively. So as long as we don't turn it over and make them consistently move the ball on us, that should really favor us, I believe. So I think we're going to get the job done. It will be extremely tight, I believe. My gut feeling is it's very low scoring for the whole game pretty much, but especially early on. Then as the game progresses, maybe in the second half, we get a touchdown, a field goal, something like that to give us some cushion, and we end up holding on to get the win. That's how I'm kind of feeling about this game. Another thing that I was thinking earlier is, okay, so maybe not the best analogy because it's the regular season and it's the Browns. The Browns obviously are much worse than the Texans this year. But at the time, Cleveland had the number one total defense. Myles Garrett alone in that game sacked Drake May 5 times, and we put up over 30 on them. Now, obviously, it helps that their offense was really not great in that game. But my point is, we played good against the top pass defense earlier, not pass defense, total defense earlier in the year. I think we can do it again here. And again, who do you trust more? CJ Stroud, who turned it over and was sloppy against the Steelers, even though I actually think outside of those turnovers, he played solid. See, are you going to trust Stroud and the Texans offense, which is kind of in the middle of the pack this year, or Drake May and the Patriots offense? Houston has the better defense, but our defense, like I said, I really like the way we match up with them. Hopefully we can carry the momentum over from last week into this week. So I'm going to go with us. If the Texans do win, I think it'll be honestly in part because maybe they get an explosive play here or there. It could be a game similar to the Chargers where maybe they jump out to the lead early with explosive plays, then their offense doesn't do too much after that. And the Patriots were just trailing, we're fighting back, but they end up holding on and winning at the end. I could see it being similar to that. Defense pressure could be a significant issue, forcing turnovers. But yeah, outside of their defense really playing great, I don't think the offense is going to be able to get enough done for Houston. I'm going to go with my team. Another thing with the pass pro, I see a lot of people saying McDaniels may use our tight ends to chip block. I could see that too. I'm going to go with us here. I was nervous right after the Pittsburgh game, but as the weeks progress, I feel a bit more confidence as we get closer to the game here. So I'm going to go with us 23-17. Obviously, the more the better, but I think our target goal is 21, and I would feel good about our odds in that one. And then the last game here, Rams-Bears. So I'm going to go with the Rams 27-23. Now, this is one of those games I wish I could change my score prediction. Well, I can, but I probably would change my score prediction if I didn't have a perfect bracket up to this point, because I think the Rams probably are going to score more than 27. I think they're going to score 30 plus. This Bears defense, for most of the season, has not been good, except forcing turnovers. The Rams offense, I seriously think they could put a performance together. Basically, with the Packers in the first half, I could see them doing that the whole game. The Rams do have a tendency to kind of let up and take their foot off the gas if they have a big lead. I don't think if that's the case, that is going to be what happens here, because Sean McVay, friends with Matt LaFleur, the offensive coordinator for the Rams, Mike LaFleur, is Matt LaFleur's brother. So they didn't take too kindly to Ben Johnson, kind of with the short handshake to Matt LaFleur saying he hates the Packers. So I think they're going to really want to hammer the Bears here as, a nice FU to Ben Johnson. So I could see that happening. However, the Bears, on paper, the Rams really should win comfortably. I have learned with the Bears this season to not pick games based off of paper. That's not how I pick games in general, especially with the Bears, because this Bears team on paper this season should have lost a lot more, but they keep finding ways to win. They're certainly the less talented team than the Rams here. And the Rams, the way they match up with them, extremely favors the Rams, I believe, with how, poor the Bears defense has been this season in regard to giving up yardage. Now, TJ Edwards got hurt last week. That sucks for them. They played great in the second half against the Packers. But the Rams, I don't think they're going to let off the gas pedal. They were sloppy for 2 quarters after Stafford banged his hand up last week, and they still put up over 30 against the Panthers. I really could see Puka Nacua having a field day, Adams having a field day, Stafford having a field day. I just think it could be a borderline shootout that favors the Rams, in my opinion. I just trust the Rams defense and offense to play better than both sides for the Bears. I think the Rams defense will get more stops than the Bears defense. And the Rams offense, I think they're just going to score more than the Bears offense. So I like LA here. They're 4.5-point favorites. So I think it was 3.5. Then actually today it shifted to 4.5. So not sure what happened there, but I'm going to go with the Rams 27-23. The Bears, again, if this is tight, late, the Bears keep finding ways to win late. Now, the weather is something people were talking about because apparently it's going to be extremely windy. It's what I saw. It's going to be freezing. Stafford is, I believe it was 1-7 in games below 40 degrees, something like that. Statistically, I don't think he's played well. So that favors the Bears, you would imagine, especially with the Rams being from LA, obviously. Offensively, the Rams have been slacking lately. Like, they were up 14-0 against Carolina. It's like, yep, they're going to blow them out, it looks like. Then they didn't play good for 2 quarters, and they had to put a game-winning drive together under the 2-minute drill to win the game against them. Chicago's obviously better than the Panthers. So Rams have been slipping up the past couple weeks, really since that Seattle game, that Thursday night game that ended up losing in the 1 seed. Then that Atlanta game, then even week 18 against the Cardinals, they're losing in the third quarter at home. So they've been slipping up a bit lately. Chicago's better than, some of those teams, at least that they played at home. Chicago, the underdog, they're going to use that as a chip on their shoulder, I'm sure. So I could see the Bears offense putting up, I think they're going to honestly need to put up like 30 plus them to win the game. Technically, my score prediction here, they just have, well, not just have to put up 28. That's going to be difficult, but they only have to put up 28 in comparison to 30 plus. But I think if they win, it's going to have to be a shootout. Defense is going to have to force some turnovers. I could see the run game for the Bears getting going here. Couldn't really get it going last week against the Packers, especially when they're down multiple scores most of the game, especially in the second half. You obviously got to go pass heavy. So I could see the run game, defense forcing turnovers, schematically Ben Johnson scheming up a good game plan. But if this Bears defense doesn't get turnovers on the Rams offense, or Stafford, maybe it's just inaccurate, his hand injury carries over, I have a tough time seeing it happen. But with the Bears pulling off all their miraculous wins at the last second, who the hell knows with this team? As the weeks progress, I've kind of gained more confidence the Bears could pull it off. Right now, my confidence level is like probably 60-40 or 65-35 in the Rams' favor. But originally, I was like probably like 75-25 or 80-20. So I'm thinking the Bears have a better chance as the week progresses here. We're going to have to wait and see. Maybe, and again, the weather factor could benefit the Bears, but I'll go with the Rams 27-23. I would stay away from that 4.5-point spread, though. Yeah, those are my score predictions for all the divisional round games. Again, all of them could go either way. So down to 8. Obviously, next week we'll be down to 4. Spreads, bit of an interesting selection for the week, especially Buffalo, Denver, San Francisco, Seattle. I think Seattle was favored by 7.5 the whole week. It came down 0.5 point. 3-point spread for us has been consistent. Then the Rams I mentioned, I believe they started as 3.5. Now they're 4.5-point favorites. So, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully my score bracket or my bracket can stay perfect. 6 of 6. Hopefully if I'm 4 of 4, it can be 10 of 10 after this week. But who knows? I feel decent about Buffalo, Seattle, I feel decent about. I feel okay about us, and the Rams, I feel okay too. But very well could go either way. Guess the game I feel least confident about. Probably Buffalo and Denver, then Texans, and then Patriots is probably a close second. But yeah, this should be a really good week. 4 really good games. 8 elite teams left. Who's going to advance? We'll have to wait and see. Bunch of entertaining games. Should be fun to watch. As far as this video, I will wrap it up here. Come out with my divisional round recap video later in the week. So be on the lookout for that if you're interested. Going to do in the future score predictions for conference championship, Super Bowl, as well as recaps. Dylan and I, we couldn't find a time for the podcast this week, but I'll try to remember to mention Dylan's picks for the divisional round. If I had to take a guess, I have a sneaking suspicion he's going to pick Houston against us because he said a couple weeks ago that was the matchup. He very much likes the way the Texans match up against us. I can already see the excuses now if we win, though, that, oh, well, Nico Collins is in there. The Texans would have won. I can already see that now. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens. I'll wrap this video up here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you for tuning in. Take it easy. If you're betting, good luck with betting this week. And especially this week, as always, especially as we play the Texans, chance to go to the conference championship, maybe even host it if my score prediction holds up. Go Pats.